About 2 years ago, I was seeking escape from every aspect of my life. I became quite insular to the extent that I was looking at technology as a means to escape, a gnawing spiritual lack that I felt inside. There was no calmness, there was no stillness, there was grasping. I was seeking external things to fill up a hole that was gaping within my core. And it's funny that it was technology that I was seeking to help fill up this hole. YouTube, Instagram, pornography, nothing worked. Everything made me feel worse than I felt before. And then I came across a book, which I'd heard about before because it is from one of my favourite authors, but an idea that I didn't really understand at first until I finished the book, and I felt calmer, peaceful, more grounded, more masculine, more still. And it's this book that I want to go through with you today, because all I've been thinking about for the past year is stillness. Everything good that has happened in my life has come from a place of stillness. Not in angst, not anxiety, not grasping, not neediness. Stillness. I believe this to be one of the core things that we can cultivate in our lives, and I actually believe that it's always there. Our default is stillness, it's just many things get in the way. So all I've been doing for the past month is been picking apart this book, the best chapters from it, and compiling all of my stories that I have in order to create this full guide of stillness for you. So after, you will feel calmer, more peaceful, but more active to do the things that really matter in your life. Calm is contagious, and to be the calmest person in the room, that person who is so still that others rely on in times of chaos, and this is the ideal we will achieve after this guide. The book is begun with an example of Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, sitting down to write to his good friend Lucilius about the life of a Stoic philosopher in the busy city of Rome. He noticed that there were men sweating and panting in the gymnasium outside. Fat men were getting their bellies massaged and slapped in the streets below. People were hustling and bustling in the chaos of a busy city, and he couldn't write, he couldn't focus, until he realised all outside may be bedlam, provided there is no disturbance within. The Buddhists referred to it as upekkha, the Muslims as lama, the Hebrews hishtavut, the Hindus samatvam, the Greeks euthymia, Epicureans ataraxia, the Christians aquanamitas, in English, stillness. Now you might be thinking, oh no, there's another bloke on the internet about to tell us to meditate all of the time. Meditation isn't mentioned once throughout this book. So regardless of whether it's a habit that you already cultivate, don't worry, we're not going to be talking about meditation here, although it's very important. The counterexample to stillness that is provided throughout this book is the example of Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, the famous golfer, pretty much achieved everything that a golfer could achieve within his career. He was subjected to such an extreme exposure of discipline from his dad Earl Woods, who wasn't the biggest advocate for stillness in his life, engaging in the many affairs that he did. In fact, it was Earl who coined the E word, and you know what that word stands for? Enough. They were never to utter the E word. In fact, while training together, Earl Woods would subject Tiger to extreme racial slurs while on the golf pitch, so when he grew older, he would already be accustomed to these offences. Imagine that. Imagine a dad disciplining his son in that way. It's imperative that we discipline our children, we discipline others in our lives, and we discipline ourselves, but not from a place of hatred. After winning the 2008 US Open, Tiger Woods took 6 months off in order to rehabilitate an injury. It was during this time he had multiple affairs, he slept with 21-year-old daughters of family friends, ultimately went on a sex rampage, and then, after his wife found out, because obviously she's not going to stay with him after all of this is going on, he went through a $100 million divorce and sex rehab. Hardly advocating for stillness, you could say he was a product of his upbringing, but this is the opposite of what we're aiming to. This book is split up into 3 parts: the mind, the soul, the body, and we're going to distill the most important chapters from this book. Part 1. The mind. The counterexample to Tiger Woods, the good example, is John F. Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Imagine there is a global conflict going on between the US and Russia, two of the biggest military powerhouses in the whole world, and everyone in the Western world looks to you to be responsible for negotiating this conflict. Imagine the stillness you must have to cultivate in order to be able to provide others with the calmness needed. It's told that Kennedy, during the many stressful meetings that he would have, would be doodling on a piece of paper, drawing pictures of ships and oceans that he adored so brilliantly, to retain that inner stillness he needed in order to make sound decisions. The mind is restless, Krishna, impetuous, self-willed, hard to train. To master the mind seems as difficult as to master the mighty winds. So to put it in a quote form from the Tao Te Ching, the ideal we are striving for is to be as careful as someone crossing an iced over stream, as alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid as melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Chapter 1. Limit your inputs. The Napoleon principle is something I've been telling many people over the past year, especially in my previous job as a salesman in a leisure centre. Much to the misunderstanding of my manager, what I would do is not check my emails for a very long time. Sometimes until midday, sometimes until the next day, because I understood that the important deep work was me interacting with people and bringing out the best in them. And what I noticed is when I left the emails for a long enough time, most things would be sorted out in their own time. Napoleon had this famous strategy of whenever he received letters or mail or news, he would ensure that the most alert and key pieces of information were delivered to him straight away, but anything superfluous was to be left for 3 weeks and then to be sifted through. And what he realised is a lot of stuff, when left, sorts itself out on its own. As the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. You have to put yourself on an information diet, just like you would with your nutrition, in order to create the best body that you can possibly have. You must protect your mind with the information that you absorb. Are you subscribed to over 500 channels on YouTube? Subscribe to 10 and just watch them. Allow yourself to absorb deeper content so you can actually train your mind to pay attention. The people you hang around, do they gossip unnecessarily and leave you feeling more drained after being with them? If you wish to improve in your life, you have to be ignorant to a lot of the things that happen nowadays. You've got to be sober in your analysis of information. You cannot be drunk in your content absorption, because you will get a muddled quality of mind, and stillness is not muddled. It's clear, it's calm, it's sober. Number 2. Empty the mind. Chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water, as the Zen proverb goes. A lot of the times life involves us getting out of our own way. I remember when I was 17 and I was taking my driving test, I was in the waiting room with a lot of other 17 to 18 year olds who were also taking their test. And there was this one guy who had failed his test 6 to 7 times. And I thought, either he's really unlucky or he's continuously getting in his own way. Any athlete, any person who's done any performance of any extent knows that the best way to perform is to let the body do the work. You've got a jiu-jitsu competition, you've got a fight coming up, you've got a football match. Let your body do the work as a consequence of rigorous training. I've just spent the weekend in Bristol, and me and my friend were waiting for the bus to go back to his house. There were a lot of people at the bus stop, and there were these 2 really good looking girls with one of their mums, and they were talking about games that they wanted to play when they went back to their home. Likely drinking games. And my friend Joe, being the sociable people that we are, piped up and said, I want to be a judge as to what games you're going to play. They playfully interacted with us, and we decided that one of the games we should play while waiting for the bus is to sing a song in a different accent, and then everyone else has to guess the accent and the song. But when it was one of our times to go, we took way too long thinking about the song and the accent that we just stopped and we said, nah, stupid game, we won't do it. Get out of your mind, just act. Get out of your mind and into your body, and allow the intuition of your bodily senses to do the work. Man is a thinking reed, but his great works are done when he is not calculating and thinking. Childlikeness has to be restored with long years of training in the art of self-forgetfulness. When this is attained, man thinks, yet he does not think. Number 3. Slow down. Think deeply. I'm going to butcher my French pronunciation, but let's do it. L'essentiel est invisible pour les yeux. What's essential is invisible to the eye. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, implores us to challenge the impressions which tackle our mind, and this is one direct route to stillness. Something's happening in your life. Someone says a comment about you. You're faced with a setback. Allow yourself the passage of time to really dissect this and to ask, what is this impression? The world is like muddy water. To see through it, we have to let things settle. We can't be disturbed by initial appearances, and if we are patient and still, the truth will be revealed to us. The truth will be revealed to you if you just take time to wait. You've just ended a relationship, you've just quit your job, you're unsure about what decision to make next. Allow the passage of time to go forth. It will make all the difference in the world. I've realised that throughout the week I need at least 4 hours to actually think about things, think about my direction, come up with new ideas and then capture them. There are answers that must be fished from the depths, and fishing takes time and you have to respect the process. Meditate on a Zen koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Does the dog have Buddha nature? What was your face like before you were born? Questions that don't have immediate answers but that awaken you instantly to the enlightenment of life. In fact, I was having a conversation with one of my good friends, Joe, and he said that if he doesn't sit down for at least an hour a night and process what's happened throughout the day, thinking, not plugged in, not distracted by technology, not reading or anything, just sitting and thinking, then the next 3 to 4 days are just cluttered with this mental programming that he hasn't unraveled through the experiences that he's had at the beginning of the week. Stop being so afraid of your thoughts. Allow yourself to think. Blaise Pascal said, all of man's problems stem from his inability to sit in a room and think. Number 4, seek wisdom. Socrates famously said that he knew nothing, and that made him one of the most wise men in all of Greece, as proclaimed by the Oracle of Delphi. And one of the examples that is given in this chapter, it was actually quite funny. During his time in prison, Hitler only read historical literature which fit his narrative, and said, after reading this and having time to go through this literature, I recognise the correctness of my views. That's not wisdom, that's ego. One of the principles that I've written down recently, out of my top 6, is the closer you get to the truth, the more silent you become inside. Wisdom is truth, passed down throughout the ages from your ancestors. At this time in your life, now you want to cultivate stillness and you're developing the habit and developing the necessity to develop it, forget about gimmicky information. Do not memorize. You want to arrive at your own time. Relating to the last chapter, allowing yourself time to actually think and digest experiences will allow you the time to arrive at your own wisdom. And there's nothing better because it's earned. It's yours. It's not borrowed, it's not rented from someone else. You don't have the danger of passing on someone else's wisdom when you haven't actually arrived at the lessons yourself. Seek wisdom. Read books that return you to yourself. Read books that awaken you to the enlightenment of your being. And sometimes when you start to seek more wisdom, you will read books that will challenge you. But with the stillness inside, it won't faze you. In fact, you'll savour the challenge, because as Ryan Holiday points out in this chapter, on the other side lies the truth. I'm going to go through 2 habits that you can quickly cultivate before we go into the last 2 chapters of this part. Number 1, start journaling. Anne Frank said that paper is more patient than people, and she was right. Allow yourself to withdraw the lessons that you have accumulated throughout your days. Put your day up for review and write. Sometimes you don't know what you think about something until you write it down, and sometimes you actually articulate something in poetry before you can articulate it in clear words. And don't be perfectionistic with your journaling. Don't aim to write the most wisest proclamations that you've ever written within one sitting. Aim to just unravel your mind, because you'll need it. Do it daily. Don't just do it once a week. Journal about the upcoming year. Journal about experiences that you've had in the past. Journal about how you're feeling right now, because what you can articulate, you will understand, and what you will understand will bring you closer to the truth. Number 2, Alan Watts said that we should pause for moments of silence. You know, when we have the memorials for World War I and World War II, and everyone pauses for silence in school or at work, and everyone thinks really serious thoughts. Maybe you think about the people who died. That's not a moment of silence. Moments of silence are true silence. No talking, no reverberations of the mind, no ruminating. Silence. Sometimes when you go into nature, you pause and you think, wow, no humans, no words, just pure silence. Don't be afraid of silence as well. It's one of the best things you can do for your sanity, especially in a state of boredom. Unplug from technology, take out your earphones, stop listening to audiobooks and podcasts for the next hour and just sit. Go for a walk, don't talk, just listen. Number 5, 2 more before we move on to the next part. Find confidence, avoid ego. When I was 19, I was travelling with my ex-girlfriend and we arrived in the city of Lisbon to live there for the next 2 to 3 months. And I remember the state of mind that I was in right then was boisterous and egotistical. I arrived in the city of Lisbon for the first time and I remember I said to myself in my head, I will run this city. Oh my god. It's so cringy when I think about it. And guess what? I said I will run this city. I had the worst 3 months of my whole life. Mentally, I was not taking care of myself. Physically, I was not in the best shape of my life. And 3, I got into many altercations with people because I was working in a bar that did not exemplify stillness. Ego is not pointing towards stillness. Confidence is, because it is earned and it is an integral part of your being, because when you are confident, you have confidence in yourself because of your past experiences. You know you have done something before, you know you have been through greater trials and tribulations, therefore you can go through some more. Ego is a complete overestimation of your abilities. You know those moments where you challenge someone on something or someone challenges you on something and then instantly the other person or yourself gets insecure about it? No, absolutely not. What are you talking about? That is ego. You've challenged someone, you've hit upon a nerve. Cultivate confidence instead. Now, the way you can cultivate confidence is to go where you have none. There is a brilliant shorts that Dr. Julie Smith, the famous psychologist, posted about this, where she got 2 balloons. One was vulnerability and the other was confidence. When the balloon of vulnerability was squeezed, the air transported to the balloon of confidence, which grew. Think about the areas in your life in which you have no confidence. Go into those endeavours and cultivate it. You cannot have confidence without vulnerability. Confident people know what matters. They know when to ignore other people's opinions. They don't boast or lie to get ahead and then struggle to deliver. Confidence is the freedom to set your own standard and unshackle yourself from the need to prove yourself. A confident person doesn't fear disagreement and doesn't see change, swapping an incorrect opinion for a correct one, as an admission of inferiority. Ego, on the other hand, is unsettled by doubts, afflicted by hubris, exposed by its own boasting and posturing, and yet it will not probe itself or allow itself to be probed because it knows what might be found. Confident people are open, reflective, and able to see themselves without blinders. All this makes room for stillness by removing unnecessary conflict and uncertainty and resentment. And what about you? Where are you on the spectrum of confidence and ego? Number 6, let go. A lot of problems in our lives as human beings come because we do not want to let go of things. A relationship which has overstayed its welcome, a job which is no longer challenging you, a place that no longer calls you to the highest point of your being. So it is with our wanting for rewards. You see little children nowadays, they don't want to do anything unless they can be praised for it. Kids don't think that they exist unless they have a TikTok presence. The boy who's at football practice and he's always turning around to see if his coach has acknowledged the good penalty that he's just taken. Kenzo, the famous Zen archery master, would tell his students, don't ask, just practice. It's the same in jiu-jitsu. Our fellow brothers all gain a lot more from actually practicing with each other than by dissecting things through theory. Do away with the reward. You hit a bullseye, you did really well, you achieved the thing that you said you were going to achieve, brilliant. Continue as if nothing happened. What we should be doing is practicing, doing away with this willful will, because the more we aim for the trophy, the more we aim for the target, the more we will forget about the inevitable process needed to follow in order to get to the trophy. Let go. It's hard. It is hard to let go of something. A relationship, a job, an idea, a plan that you once had. But you need to. Maybe there will be a period after of turmoil, anxiety, grief, sadness, depression. but you need to let go. Because your stillness is on the other side. Part 2. The soul. Number 1. Choose virtue. Figure out your damn values. I am religious myself, so I don't believe that religion has been totally destroyed nowadays. In fact, I think a lot of people are spiritually craving the preordained values that religion provides. Hence, a lot of people are converting to Islam and returning to Christianity. But if you do not subscribe to any religion, then you need to figure out the principles and values which guide you in life. Because guess what? That is where your stillness lies. The ability to be confronted with a decision and to know that you have a framework to refer to in order to make this best decision going forth. I know my 5 values. Does this decision align with any of my values? No, I'm not going to make the decision then. If you don't know your values, it's going to be a lot harder for you to make decisions in life, to understand who should stay in your life, to understand what plan you want to take going forward, and to even understand why you're here on earth. In the same way that the steering wheel will guide the ship, our values guide ourselves. Paint your ideal day. It's a very common exercise that you can do, but if money and societal pressure wasn't an object, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do with your time? And then glean the values that are clearly apparent within that. If you want to train, discipline is one of them. If you want to go up to women and speak to them because you would like to develop your social skills, courage and playfulness are 2 more of your values. If you want to spend time with family, then love is also a connected value of yours. If every now and then you want to go travelling, adventure, boom, you've got 5 already there. If you want to become the best man that you can possibly be, stillness and masculinity. There's 7. Figure them out. And just like you're mining for diamonds, boom, another value, boom, another value. What I've realised is you probably don't want more than 7, but here's a few questions that will help you uncover your values. What type of person do you want to be for those who are important in your life? What type of friend do you want to be? What type of brother do you want to be? What type of sister do you want to be? What type of son, daughter, father? Whatever your title is. Let's say we only get to live once and there's nothing after we close our eyes in the inevitable final moments that we have. What impact do you want to have had on the people in your life? What work would you have liked to have done? If you leave this world better than how you found it, what does that mean to you? What is the next right thing for you to do right now? Number 2, heal the inner child. Drop your old stories of childhood trauma. Figure them out, go to therapy and actually speak to a professional if you have traumas within inside you. It might be a really long process where you have to take out all of this tough stuff and you have to go through this psychological trauma and revisit things, but this story that you're telling yourself about your parents, this story that you're telling yourself about your family and how you've been hard done by, yeah, there might be some PTSD there might genuinely be some trauma, in which case go to a therapist and speak about it. In the second case, work through it with your own self-awareness. Give the love that you didn't receive. Give the principles to your son that you didn't receive from your dad. Be the type of brother that you would want to be. Let's put it this way. Would you put a 9-year-old in charge of the decisions in your life? No? Okay. So the inner child within you that is screaming out for attention, you need to heal it. And he needs to be listened to, and you need to unconsciously engage in active imagination where you sit there, you bring the image of your 9-year-old self, your 6-year-old self, your 3-year-old self to mind, and you say, we are fine now. We have shoes to sustain our feet. We have food to nourish our body. We have a strong, muscular stature to protect ourselves in life. There's no need to be afraid anymore. I am taking care of you. Number 3, beware desire. The example that I mentioned earlier of John F. Kennedy could be given to exemplify this chapter. John F. Kennedy was known for his sex addiction, which riddled his life. Now, we all live in a highly sexualized world nowadays. We all have access to pornography. Sexuality is seen as something that can liberate you from the constraints of everyday life. But taken too far, it creates an inner craving that can never be satisfied. So it is with junk food, technology, gossip, envy, comparison. This desire that you have unconsciously cultivated within your soul, you need to tame it, and you need to redirect it to one main desire you have for the rest of your life. As human beings, we cannot do away with desiring things in general, because we want. As Naval Ravikant famously said, desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get that which you want. So the remedy for this is to pick one main desire and let all the other little insignificant ones fall to the wayside. Cultivate one desire. You want to be rich? Okay, that's fine. Understand that you'll be unhappy until you become rich, but if that's really important to you, then do it. You want to retire your mum? Brilliant. Until you achieve that, you may be able to be happy along the way, but there will be some inevitable unhappiness as you recognise the gap between you and the goal, but that's your main desire, cultivate it. Every man has a passion gnawing away at the bottom of his heart, just as every fruit has its worm. Da Vinci in his notebooks actually described the personification of envy as she should look haggard and old due to her perpetual state of torment. I remember I had a dream once where Leonardo DiCaprio was in it and he was looking out of a window with this woman and she came behind him and whispered in his ear and said, "Envy is jealousy and greed. Envy is a way that we cultivate desires. How about if you only desired what you already have? And to have an impulse and to resist it, or in fact understand that it's inevitable that you're going to resist it because it's not aligned with your values. You have the instinct to watch porn or watch technology into oblivion, but you know that it doesn't align with your overriding purpose, principles and values, so you inevitably resist it. That's spiritual strength right there. Number 4, enough. This is one of my favourite stories. Let me explain it. Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller, two very famous authors, were once at a party in a mansion of a famous billionaire. Both very good friends. Kurt turned to Joe and said, "Joe, how does it feel knowing that we're in the house of someone who yesterday earned more than your book has ever earned within its lifetime?" Joseph Heller turned around to him and said, "Yeah, but I have something this person will never have." And Kurt said, "What?" Joseph replied, "The knowledge that I have enough." More does nothing for the one who feels less than, who cannot see the wealth that was given to them at birth, that they have accumulated in their relationships and experiences. Solving your problem of poverty is an achievable goal and can be fixed by earning and saving money. No one could seriously claim otherwise. The issue is when we think these activities can address spiritual poverty. We are here as if immersed in water, head and shoulders underneath the great oceans, and yet how pitifully we are extending our hands out for water. These 2 points absolutely blew my mind. One, the first quote was obviously from Ryan Holiday, the second one was from the Zen master Ganesha. The analogy, we are in a deep ocean of water and yet we are extending our hands asking for more water. It's the natural state of human beings, and what I've learned through reading a book called The Molecule of More is it is our fundamental state to be unsatisfied as human beings. Otherwise, evolutionarily, we never would have achieved much. We never would have made it out of the plains of Africa because we would have been like, no, we're alright here, we're quite good. So stillness and the idea that you have enough is something that you must continuously choose every single day, and then operate from that place to achieve more if you want it. But understand it's a bonus, it's extra, you don't need it, but you can engage in it if you want. Number 5. Accept a higher power. There was a brilliant moment in the Russell Brand podcast with Stephen Bartlett where Stephen challenged Russell Brand, of course, because Russell Brand is quite religious himself, and said, "Do you know what, Russell? A lot of people believe that God nowadays is this man sat in the sky on a throne with a big beard." And Russell looked at him and said, "Well, they should stop believing in that." And it was an awesome moment because sometimes we have to reject the tyranny of our own intellect and believing that everything revolves around us. There's an incredible sense of ease that you can feel through accepting a higher power. Now, men will ferret you out and try and get you to subscribe to their religions. I'm not going to say that you should follow my religion of Christianity. It's completely up to you. You can find God in your own way and define whatever that means to you. But having something higher, having a understanding that the orders of the universe are bigger than your ego is incredibly humbling and conducive to stillness. And in fact, this is one of the main steps of the 12-step program, which helps people battle addiction. Doing away with your ego that you have accumulated for yourself over many years of addiction. Because if you are addicted to something, if you are a slave to technology, pornography, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, weed, you've likely developed an ego around that activity and that thing, that in some way or another you've become negligent of yourself and of other people. There's nothing above you guiding your principles. This was the case with me. I was very negligent of my ex-girlfriend when I was head and heels, into technology and drowning my sorrows in that way. And I've spoken to a few people who have dealt with addiction, and the common theme among all of their experiences is that they become very dismissive and disregarding towards the loved ones in their lives, and no one can help them. So accepting that higher power, maybe when no one else is helping you in life, you understand that you have God. God would never give you something that you cannot handle, but there's no rush. There's no pressure. It's there to accept when and if you ever want it. Part 3. We're getting into the last bit now, so let's really run this home. The body. The main example that is given in this part of the book is Winston Churchill. Known to be very productive throughout his life, of course being the Prime Minister of England, defeating the Nazis, writing many books and producing many paintings. He was a lover of hobbies. Painted. He wrote, bricklaying. And of course, just like John F. Kennedy in the Cuban Missile Crisis, many people would have turned to Winston Churchill to have the stillness that they didn't when everything was kicking off during World War I, World War II with the Nazis, and the inner turmoil which every country in Europe pretty much felt at the onset of terror. Churchill said that each prophet must go through an inevitable state of stillness, solitude, and silence in order to build something he coined psychic dynamite. That is some brilliant terminology for it. Think about that. When you cultivate solitude, when you cultivate stillness, when you allow yourself to be bored and to retreat and to meditate, you're building psychic dynamite. You know those moments where you go on holiday and you have new experiences and you come back and you're more refreshed, or instead of watching YouTube 2 hours before bed, you allow yourself to go for a walk in the woods. Or even if you are on YouTube, you absorb good content that returns you to yourself, like this video. That psychic dynamite, that powerful mental state is there. You've cultivated it. Good job. So let's move into the last chapters. Number 1, say no. I'm 23 now, and when I was 18, I went travelling all across Europe, and my one rule was to say yes to absolutely everything, and it served me well. It opened me to a wealth of new experiences and relationships and friendships and funny experiences that I was able to have. And now 5 years later, now I'm 23, I'm starting to appreciate the importance of being in a season of no, which literally means saying no to things rather than taking on too many things and burdening yourself with more projects and tasks. Your ability to say no to things, especially when you're able to refer to your values, is incredible. And that comes from a place of stillness, not from a place of anger. Because some people hold it on others when they're saying no. Oh, look at me. No, I don't want to go to your event. I'm much better than that. To have the stillness to stand in front of someone, they offer to do something with you, or they suggest a social event that you want to go to, or a project, and you have the stillness and inner calm to be able to say, thank you, but no, because I've got a few other things I'm focusing on right now. Oh yeah, what other things are you focusing on? I'll let you know when they're done. Say no. Disappear for a bit, and then come back better. Number 2, take a walk. Just as my friend Joe's way of processing his day is him sitting down before bed and allowing himself to think, my way of processing the day is going on a walk with absolutely no technology and talking to myself out loud. I created another video which you can watch down below in the description of the 2 most important habits that I have developed for my mental health. 1 is walking and talking out loud to myself and God before bed, and then 2 is usually after I return from the walk, I write letters to myself. Kierkegaard, the famous Danish philosopher, said he walks himself from a place of illness into a state of health and merriment, and those were the words he actually said to his depressed, bedridden sister. He advised her to walk and to think. Nietzsche famously said there are no thoughts worth having unless attained by walking. If you have nature nearby you, go for a walk through there, go to the woods, walk barefoot if you want. Just be careful of those spiky pine cones, they're really annoying. Go on a hike, or just walk through your neighbourhood and allow yourself to be attentive. No earphones, no headphones, just walk. And you'll come back stiller, especially after writing a letter to yourself or journaling in some way. It's the best combined activity that you can do, because a lot of the times I think about things that I want to write about when I'm walking, and then I return and then I capture those ideas, those philosophies, and those things that those messages that sometimes I want to send to other people. A lot of the times I find that when I go on a walk and I talk to myself out loud, I return with a feeling of overwhelming love that I want to express to my friends and people in my life, and I want to compliment them, and I want to look them in the eye and send them a message and just say, I appreciate everything that you do for me, and you should walk as well. Number 3, we've got 5 more. Build a routine. If a person puts even one measure of effort into following ritual and the standards of righteousness, he will get back twice as much. This is a standout chapter and fundamental to your mental health. Having a solid routine that you follow is conducive to abundant mental health, because if you're someone like me and you understand that you want to follow deep work and you want to live as close to your purpose as you possibly can, you need to know when, where, and how you're going to work on your purpose. So waking up, and for the first 3 hours, one hack that I've learned recently from the CEO of Testosterone is, when you wake up, do 3 things before you check your phone. So build a routine in that aspect of replacing the time you usually spend on a degenerative activity in the morning and a dopamine depleting activity in the morning with deep work for 3 hours. Work out at the same time every single day, so your body becomes acclimatized to it, and you don't have to make overwhelming decisions of, oh, shall I work out this time today? Sometimes it's good to have a contextual routine. For example, if you're traveling, then of course your routine might differ a little bit, so you need to be fluid in that aspect. But for most of the time, train at the same time, eat at the same time, and you don't need a fantastical morning routine where you have an ice bath, meditate for 5 hours, and then journal and plan your life 500 years down the line. But cultivate these practices that I'm mentioning today. For example, taking a walk, journaling, cultivating stillness, doing deep work as a routine in your daily life. Because, as Ryan Holiday says, routine done for long enough, done sincerely enough, becomes ritual, sanctified and holy. And Murakami, the famous Japanese novelist, says that he mesmerizes himself into a state of routine every single day. That idea, you can build that psychic dynamite that Churchill mentioned through building your routine, mesmerizing yourself. It's not boring. A lot of people argue that, routine, you're doing the same thing every single day, boring. No, it becomes a ritual where you turn up and it grounds you in a state of stillness. Number 4, get rid of your stuff. After I read the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I remember I was reading reviews online, and I came across one that actually made me laugh and cut to the core of something that I was exploring throughout my life at that time, which was minimalism. The book itself is a very humorous, to the core, anti-authority book, just like Fight Club really. It's absolutely awesome. And this review was from an American guy who said, after reading this book, I took all of my possessions that I didn't need, went to the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and chuck them off the edge. That's how the book made me feel. And I think about this a lot. We should do that more. If it didn't damage the environment, we should just get rid of anything that doesn't serve you in life. Because stillness is not that person who, when travelling to a new place or when moving flat or house, they have a car full of stuff, they have to get a huge van to transport everything. That's not stillness. That's being bogged down by possessions that you've accumulated throughout life. For what reason? Do they serve you? Pick something up. Pick up one of your possessions, Epsom bath salts, and feel it. Does this serve me? This is not a good example. Feel it. Does this serve me in life? Pick up your clothes. Does this give me a warm feeling that I want to keep it? If so, keep it, and understand the importance that you need in life. The important things you need in life. I have a list now. I'll show you. I have a list now of things, itinerary. So I've been streamlining my things that I have over the last few months, and I've really understood what I need. This is it. So travel bag, day bag, working out outfit, desk to work, environmentally, jiu-jitsu gi, electronics pack, socks, boxes, pen, all of that stuff. But the things that you want to achieve in life, what will get you there? What possessions do you actually need? The gentleman makes things his servants. The petty man is servant to things. Ryan Holiday conceptualizes it in a brilliant way in this chapter. Don't use your money to buy headaches, loneliness, status anxiety. Imagine the man and the woman who have a family of 3 and they both work full-time jobs while having a full-time family in order to maintain the 2 extra rooms in their big mansion, which no one ever uses anyway. It's ridiculous when you think about how dogged down into earning money you can be to maintain buying things that you don't actually need in the first place. Stillness is a feeling of calm peace, that you have everything you need, you know where it is in a Kaizen way, and you know that if things hit the fan and you need to move house tomorrow, you can easily do so. Number 5. Seek solitude. Breakthroughs seem to happen with stunning regularity in the shower or on a long hike. Where don't they happen? Shouting to be heard in a bar. 3 hours into a television binge. Nobody realises just how much they love someone while they're booking back-to-back-to-back meetings. If solitude is the school of genius, then the crowded, busy world is the purgatory of the idiot. Allow yourself to be alone. Number 6. Beware escapism. Build a life that you're not trying to escape from. Like I said, for me, the anecdote of escapism was my technology usage. I was trying to get away from myself and my mind and my depressed state that I was creating for myself at every turn, until I started to replace those habits for things which actually did cultivate stillness. Instead of going on a technology binge, go for a walk. Instead of sparking a joint, not that I was smoking weed, but instead of sparking a joint, go to the forest. Too often, the frenzied or the miserable think that an escape, literal or chemical, is a positive good. Sure, the rush of travelling, the thrill of surfing, or the altered state of a psychedelic can relieve some of the tension that's built up in our lives. Maybe you get some pretty pictures out of it, and some pseudo-profundity that impresses your friends. But when that wears off, what's left? When the escapism ends, when you come back from travelling, when you're back from holiday, when you've put your laptop down because you finished your technology binge into oblivion, what are you left with? Who are you left with? Marcus Aurelius says you can escape at any moment you want. Return to yourself. You're always there. You might need a moment, and that's it, to return you back to face whatever awaits you. Stillness is being able to live with an open heart even when it hurts, and to be emotionally calm because you know yourself, you've done the rigorous self-exploration that you needed to, and you know your values. Number 7. Act bravely. In Albert Camus' famous novel The Fall, the main character, Clarence, hears a scream while walking through the streets of Amsterdam. But he ignores the scream and carries on the rest of his evening. Over the next few days, a few strange events begin to follow and an inner disturbance is realised. He gets into some weird altercations where he believes a group of teenagers are talking about him, and he actually gets into a fight in the middle of a road with a motorcyclist. As he starts to unpack these feelings of inner disturbance, he realises that the scream that he heard and that he ignored was a suicide that he could have prevented. That voice that you have in your head that we usually refer to as a conscience, the more you ignore it, the less stillness you will have. Stillness comes from doing the common good. Pick up the litter on the street, hold your friend accountable, call a loved one and tell them what they mean to you. Hold yourself accountable. Live in line with your values and admit when you are not doing so. Be integral with your word. Do exactly what you say so that other people know that you are reliable and consistent. Because stillness isn't just about cultivating a really calm state to avoid the world and remove yourself from everything. It's not. We're cultivating stillness so that we can be better people, to be of better service to others. Stand up to a bully. Stand up for what is right. Speak the truth. Maintain the vows and continuously choose the vows that you swore during marriage. Do away with desire for other women and continuously choose one woman but be attractive to many. Be patient for someone who has strayed from the path. These things might take courage. They might really frighten you, but you'll be stiller after doing them. When we die, we merely return to where we was before. ultimate stillness, peace, nothingness, serenity with God. But it's this nothingness that people fear. Hence we busy ourselves with escapism, and we seek distraction at every turn, and we try to build a legacy so big that it will outlast us for generations, and we put our names on things so that things may outlast us when we take our last breath. Let go of all of that. Live and die well. Die not bemoaning existence, not complaining that you didn't do enough, but knowing that you did your best and you lived your life of virtue. And hold death in mind at every turn, at every decision, every thought, every crossroads, every moment, so that it may pierce through to the necessity of your being. That, my friends, is stillness.